Time code?
1434-6.
Okay, Wink. Tell me about, let's just go back and let me just let you talk to me about what happened with you. Give us a little prelude to it, what led up to it, and kind of tell us what happened and just take it away. Then after I hear that, I may stop you and interject a few questions. I'll have questions after you kind of tell your story.
All right. To begin with, in December of 2003, I was hired by a local television production firm that went by the name of Team Broadcasting. I was hired as one of several hundred technicians to facilitate the congressionally sponsored Al Jazeera television network in Springfield, Virginia. My position there was video operator, intake, and master control operator. Eventually, I was diagnosed by my doctor with sleep apnea. I reported this to my supervisor. 1 week later, I was fired without explanation.
Okay, so what happened next?
All right, after that, naturally I responded with a lawsuit. My initial attorney that I hired saw me through the EEOC process, which I believe was just a joke. I don't believe EEOC did an investigation in my case at all. This led to an informal arbitrary hearing at EEOC. In that hearing, my supervisor admitted that the only reason he fired me was because I brought a note back from my doctor stating that I had sleep apnea. There was no other reason he stated that he fired me. Just after the EEOC process, my attorney dropped my case with no explanation. So I was left out in the cold, but I decided I became philosophical right away, and I tried to proceed on my own. I did a lot of research about this situation. This was not only employment discrimination, but there was also ADA involved, Americans with Disability Act. Doing my research, I tried to contact practically every attorney in the Yellow Pages in this region of Maryland, DC, and Virginia. Not one attorney would take my case. It seems as though their excuse was that they could not sustain the case while it went on. So eventually I carried on my own pro se. This got me up to a point where my attorney had taken so long with not doing discovery and other things other motions that needed to be filed, that the defendants, Team Broadcast, decided to file a summary judgment against me. I responded to the summary judgment. I also got the discovery questions done on my own. This led to a status hearing in the court. The judge immediately asked me why I was there without counsel, and I explained to him that my attorney just dropped out of the case. Now, in this type of civil case, the court does not appoint you a court-appointed counsel. But the judge told me that he was going to bend the rules and appoint me a court-appointed attorney. That was January 31st, 2007. And that's the last I've heard of anything about my case.
So the court appoints you an attorney?
No, they didn't.
Oh, they didn't even appoint. He said he was going to.
He said he was going to.
Okay.
I haven't heard from him since.
And have you tried to?
I tried to contact him, but nobody responds. His secretary won't respond. He won't respond. The court clerks won't respond. And
What's the judge's name?
his name is Royce C. Lambert.
Oh, gosh. Federal Judge Royce C. Lambert,
Yeah.
the senior judge of the D.C. Circuit
Yes.
from the University of Texas at Austin. I've had dealings with Judge Royce C. Lambert.
Yeah.
He hadn't responded to me either.
It's not surprising.
So, I probably knew that I remembered somebody had dealings with him, and I guess it was you. Well, how can you explain this?
It's no secret that the judicial system in this country is drippingly saturated with corruption. That's my explanation.
That's a great soundbite, so I'm just making sure I get it down. And I got my time, so we'll match it up with the time code. Yeah, I don't think there's any question at all. How many of your friends and associates realize that, though? Do very many people realize it?
You know, unfortunately, I believe that the general population of this country is critically misinformed and uneducated about what actually is going on. They don't actually realize it until they have to step up and answer or take part in some type of case or have some dealings with the court system. That's when it's a shock. They realize that it's not going to win. You're not going to win. Unless you have a high-profile case or you have a lot of money that you can spend, you're going to jail.
Yeah, I tell people now the advice I give them is if you have to hire an attorney,
Yeah,
you hire the biggest law firm in town,
that's right.
get the most powerful attorney they've got, and before you sign an agreement with them, you ask them whether they've got the fix in with a particular judge.
That's right.
And if they don't, go to the next law firm until you find the one that's got the fix in with the judge.
I made that mistake with my attorney. When I first went to hire him, he immediately took my case. I said, "Well, you think we have a good case? I don't take cases to what did he tell me? I don't take cases. What did he actually say?
I'm taking a list of good.
I don't take cases for joy or something like that." But he gave me the impression that we had a case and we were going to win. Doing my research, I spoke to a number of attorneys. I contacted the Justice Department. I talked to different government offices, the court systems in Fairfax County, Falls Church, the District of Columbia. Everyone that I spoke to told me I had a valid case.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. But nobody would represent me. I'll tell you something else. Each one of those offices told me that it is common practice for the court systems in this particular region to dismiss these ADA or employment discrimination cases without ever being heard. There seems to be a de facto standard here in this area.
Well, there appears to be one in the Georgia federal courts as well. I don't know if it always takes place, but when you were, it was Lambert who said he was going to assign you a lawyer, and it never happened.
Yes.
Interesting.
And I was told that Judge Lambert was a reasonable, honest judge, but that hadn't been my experience.
I don't know what that person was smoking. Who told you that?
I think it was a lawyer.
See, every time I've heard anything like that from a lawyer, it's proven to be not true.
Yeah.
I don't know if the lawyers are just so dumb. I think they have to know that there's a corruption. If they're not one of the hooked up with the deal, then they might think that the person seems reasonably good.
Yeah.
I don't know. But My experience is just completely
Yeah.
different. I mean, you know, he has completely ignored your case. He hasn't dismissed it.
Not that I know of.
Have you checked the docket lately?
I know I haven't. Since 2007, my health has kind of taken a downward spiral, and I've been focused on that, and I just completely forgot the case. I've gotten to I think I'm admitting to myself nothing is going to happen. So.
I could remember my login and password. It's not the computer I normally do it on. I would log into Pacer. Either you guys have Pacer?
I don't.
No? Okay. Well, I'll check that and we'll see, because
Okay.
I can.
Yeah, see the document I get here? There's the case number. Yeah.
What I can do is I can get my wife to log in for me at
Okay.
home, because it's got the password and everything
Okay.
already embedded, and it'll just
All right.
pop right in. We'll look it up and see what the story is.
All right.
But if you were fired for sleep apnea, there's no legal basis to fire anyone for sleep apnea. They admitted it was sleep apnea, and there was no other reason. It was a wrongful termination.
Okay, I actually was not fired for sleep apnea. I was fired because I reported that my doctor diagnosed me with sleep apnea, and he wanted me to go attend a sleep apnea clinic for one night. That's why I was fired.
You were fired for reporting the fact that you needed some medical.
Just because I reported to him. He
Even worse.
this question was put to my supervisor in the informal EEO hearing directly. Is the only reason you fired him is because he reported to you that he had sleep apnea? And he said yes. And the Justice Department does classify sleep apnea as a disability.
All right. How nicely did your employer treat you following this termination? Did they give you severance? How long did they continue your medical coverage? Did they give you COBRA?
The day I was fired on a Friday, the next Monday I discovered my health benefits had also been canceled without me knowing it. After I was fired, I continued on with treatment in the sleep apnea clinic, and I was assigned a CPAP machine, which I'm thinking the insurance is going to cover. A month later, I discovered that I had no health benefits. The CPAP was not covered, and I was responsible to pay for it. And I had no money to pay for it. It eventually became inoperative. I couldn't get it repaired. From day one that I was hired in December 2003, I was harassed. Not only me, but practically everyone. Like I said, there was several hundred that were hired. And 2003 to January of 2004, we sat in a room every day because the facility wasn't ready for us. They herded us into a side room, and all of us sat in that room all day for 8 hours. We read newspapers, we talked to each other, we played solitary on the computer, and that's all we did for at least 2 months. Actually, the station didn't go on the air until I think the first or second week of February. So there was absolutely nothing to do. Naturally, you sitting in a room all day for 8 hours, somebody's going to drift off or at least get relaxed, close their eyes. He would come along and see us in the room with our eyes closed and accuse us of sleeping on the job. And this happened from day one. And it continued on throughout I was there till May of 2004. He continuously harassed me every day. He even concocted situations. There was one incident where I came back to work on a Monday morning, and he pulled me into the office and told me that a consultant that had been hired witnessed me sleeping at my post that Saturday. Well, I was off that weekend, and the scheduler who overheard the conversation verified this. It made no difference. He wrote me up anyhow and charged me with sleeping on the job.
On the day that you weren't there.
And I wasn't even there that weekend. Well, about a month or so later, I ran into this consultant in the smoking out in the back parking lot. He said he never even heard of me. He didn't see me sleeping anywhere, and he never told the supervisor that he saw me sleeping anywhere. So, this is the kind of treatment I went through the entire time I was there. My guess is that the supervisor was a little jealous of me. He did not know how to operate any of the equipment there. This was state-of-the-art equipment. I was called upon to train a lot of the employees on how to operate a lot of the equipment there, and including him. My supervisor even requested that I train him on how to run robotic cameras. My primary job there was video operator. That is maintaining the continuity of the video that goes out on the air. And you adjusting your cameras. He wanted to learn how to do that. And I mean, he could do absolutely nothing, but he was the studio supervisor. And he knew that when he hired me, that's the job that I had put in for, was studio supervisor. So I guess I was a threat to him, and he had to do something to get me out of the way.
Well, it's federal law that you have to provide COBRA when they
That's right.
in a employment situation where the person gets terminated or quits.
That's right. But they had the human resources girl terminate my benefits immediately, and behind that, she left her position. A lot of the staff members were not satisfied with what was going on, how the place was being run, and a lot of them actually left on their own. And this is the executive staff people.
So is the denial of COBRA part of your lawsuit?
Well, there is no more lawsuit. I never got that far. Like I said, the judge didn't hear anything. I said that there was a de facto standard in dismissing these cases without being heard, and this is what I believe is happening, or has happened. Judge Lambert just drew it out long enough to let it just die on its own. Everybody just forgets about what's happening here. It's taken so long to address my case, I've completely forgotten about it. And that's what I think he wanted to happen. This is a way, it's common practice in this region, and this is how they do it.
Did you ever appear before Judge Lambert?
Yeah, just in the status hearing, and when I had to respond to the summary judgment, and I believe I think I mentioned in there about cases not being heard, so therefore he had to come up with some reason or some method to let my case die. So he just made up the fact that he was going to bend the rules and appoint me a court-appointed attorney, and I'm still waiting for it.
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my wife to check and see if the case is still active.
Okay.
And if it is active, I'll contact you and let you know.
All right.
And then maybe I'll place a call to his secretary and just say, I'm wondering who the court-appointed attorney is. I'll tell you.
I would too. I'd like to know.
That might be interesting.
Yeah.
Could I interview, I'd like to interview Judge Lambert about the court-appointed attorney named for Wenzell Taylor.
Yeah.
Judge Lambert knows who I am. Seaforth Shaw. That's who represented the bad guys?
That's right.
I know Seaforth Shaw.
The team broadcast no longer exists. The company was dissolved, and it's under a new name. I think it's Team People now. And everybody who was a potential witness in my case has either been let go or transferred to other facilities.
Is it true that a number of them were transferred right after the EA hearing?
Immediately.
And
Yeah.
you believe that they were transferred so that they wouldn't be around
Yeah,
to be
they were
witnesses for you?
Yeah, they were transferred and fired. Some of them were fired and let go.
And why
Yeah.
was that?
I think it's to keep them quiet. They all knew and witnessed what I was going through because some of them were going through it too. And to keep us quiet, they had to disperse us.
I looked through all your notes, and I think we've covered everything, except that I want to talk to you about something that isn't in the notes, if you're willing to talk about it. Is it true that you used to work for the government in the video capacity?
No, I didn't work for the government, no.
Tell me about your experience with being around
Okay,
government people.
yes,
doing video.
I worked for a company who who Alan Key's radio television talk show was produced by. On his show, I was a technical director and robotic camera operator. We were at a facility at a radio station. The television studio was over in Northeast DC. Radio station was here in Arlington, Virginia. TV station was in Northeast DC. We fiber optic the video back to them, and they sent it up on satellite. During that time, I had an opportunity, not only there, but other jobs that I've had. I've had quite a bit of opportunity to work with and around a lot of the congressional members and other government officials. And it's amazing what they say in private and what they say in public. They're two different things. It's like you're talking to two different people when you address them. And I'm quite sure, I know that the public does not know this. They may suspect it, but I'm telling you, it happens for real.
If the public were to hear what you've heard these government officials saying off camera,
Yeah.
how would the public respond?
They would be appalled. They definitely would be appalled and disgusted, mad.
I need you to put that in a sentence that'll be a soundbite by itself. If the public knew what these people say in private, the public would be mad, whatever.
If the public heard what I've heard these dignitaries say in private, they would be mad as hell.
You were kind enough to bring a, would we call it a story? It's not a joke, it's a story.
It's my true feelings toward Congress.
And it's a story about some monkeys
Yes,
in a cage,
yes,
and how they get synthesized and desensitized.
exactly.
And the bottom line to the story is that the only way that you can correct a problem like that is to replace them all.
Exactly.
And is it your view that our only hope for correcting the problems we have with Congress is getting rid of all of them at once?
The only way to solve our country's problem is to get rid of the entire Congress and Senate and replace them with honest people. Honest people are very difficult to find in today's society. This entire country is almost based on corruption there. It's like a cancer that's spread through everything in this country, throughout our entire population. But we must be more diligent in who we elect and put into positions.
Well, you know, I'm not sure if you know this, but when I came to the realization that I was a victim, at first I didn't know, I thought I might be the only person. I did some internet research 6 years ago, not very much stuff popped up. Today, there's thousands and thousands of websites.
Mm-hmm.
And we, 2 years ago, held an online video conference that I call the Government Corruption Crisis Conference.
Okay.
And we had 1,300 people who were registered and logged in and participated. We had no idea how many others watched
Yeah.
or listened. But in that discussion, I presented what I had the evaluation I'd done. And came to the same conclusion you've come to. I said the fundamental problem that we have is dishonesty.
That's right.
They're all at least dishonest, if not out and out corrupt. And the only way to correct that is to replace them.
That's right.
And so I've told people, my view, and it sounds like you would share it, is forget whether you think you're a member of the Republican or Democratic Party. If you find somebody you think's honest, like Representative Jim Gooch in Kentucky has convinced me, then I don't care what party you're in, you vote for Jim Gooch.
Yes, there you go.
You know, if we get honest people in there, they will make an honest evaluation of medical care cover or whatever it is.
Yes.
You know, I don't know what to think about stem cells. I don't know what to think about a lot of this. You don't know what's true and what isn't true.
Yeah.
Let an honest person get in there, evaluate the information, and make a decision. And let's go with the honest person.
Yeah.
Because now we don't get anything for our money. We get money. We pay far more in taxes than we should. It's just. It's just like you said. It's a complete, total disease. It's a crisis. It's beyond the point of crisis, but so many people don't realize.
You mentioned paying a lot of taxes. I'm also a staunch member of the tax honesty movement. I truly believe I've studied the income tax laws, and I believe that there is no legal statute that requires Americans to pay income tax. I can't find it.
I have come to the same conclusion. I have talked to people that said, you know, I keep telling them, show me a law. Show me a law that says I have to pay tax.
That's right.
And if you go back to the Constitution, they don't have the right to just implement a tax.
Exactly right.
You know, the truth of the matter is, if the members of Congress worked for a significant corporation that was well run, they've all long since been fired.
That's correct.
You just don't operate a business where you lose massive amounts of money and you have to borrow money and pay interest and mortgage the future for everybody. You know, if somebody would, if Ross Perot had been elected, back in what was it, the early 90s, it was 92 or 3 or something.
Yes.
If Ross Perot had been elected, I sincerely believe that he would have come in and cleaned house with the government.
Yes.
He would have reduced things down and gotten rid of waste, and we didn't get a Ross Perot.
Well, you have to look at this also, that John Kennedy wanted to do something about it. He was murdered. Ronald Reagan wanted to do something about it. He was attempted murder was placed on him. I think this is why the last few presidents we've had are trying not to do anything about it. During Ronald Reagan's term, he had a Grace report done, and the Grace report proved that not one red cent of the income tax paid by the American public goes to support or pay for any service made by the government. Not 1 cent of it. It all goes as a interest that this country pays to the Federal Reserve System, a system that we don't even need. If Congress was doing their jobs, there would be no need for a Federal Reserve System.
The amount of money that could be reduced if somebody went in with the intent of fixing things. I mean, you talk about a president, or let's take a vice president who just sits over there and goes out and makes public appearances and doesn't usually do a whole lot. Put the vice president on the job of going out there and getting rid of waste.
There you go.
Let him go sit in some state's driver's license bureau for a while. See how many of those people are lazy. Or watch how slow they move at the courthouse. There's so much that we can improve, and then you talk about bettering the economy. If we all had more money, we'd have a lot better economy.
And if everybody wakes up and stop paying the income tax, they will have more money.
Have you taken it that far?
I'm in the process.
Are you?
Yes.
Good luck with that. We won't put that part on camera.
Well, since you're not going to put that part on camera, yes, I have.
You have not, okay.
I stopped paying income tax in 1997.
And
I've been harassed by the Internal Revenue ever since. They come after you relentlessly. But you have to read and understand that there is no statute requiring you to pay. And you have to understand what income is. Income is not just your salary. It's not your salary or what you're paid by a person. Income is a profit on the money that you've made. Let's give you an example. If you've been paid some money, but you use that money, let's say you go to the casino, you use the money that you got paid with, go to the casino and make a bet, and then you win. Well, that's income. That's what income is. That's where you pay your tax on that money that you won. But your salary, you made an agreement with your employer that you would do X amount of work for X amount of dollars. That's not a profit, that's an equal exchange. So why are you paying income tax when there's no profit there?
it's a great point. Do you have any hopes for the movie?
Yes, I do. I hope that this movie will wake people up, educate them to how corrupt the government is, for one thing, and get them on the right track to let me rephrase that. I hope that this movie will wake the American public up and educate them to the corrupt judicial system. That's the first thing we need to correct, is the judicial system in this country. They have to be aware of how corrupt the judges are, the attorneys, and then Congress. There's so much corruption in Congress. A lot of them have to be replaced. There are exceptions. There are a few there that can stay, that are good, honest people and are doing very good jobs. But the bulk of the Congress has to go. They have to be replaced.
I'd like to get a short little soundbite just saying, just that condenses what your situation has been.
I'm not understanding that.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a little narrative, and then you come back with a statement. I've worked in the video business for X number of years. I was terminated from a company because I reported whatever's appropriate. And I filed a lawsuit, and the judge just has ignored it, and it's been 7 years or something like that.
I've had about 25 years in television production. I was working for a company that I was terminated. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Tell me again what
what I want you to say, I want you to kind of let them know that you're not just a person who just got one job.
Okay.
You worked in video for television production for a long time. You went to work for somebody. You reported that you had been diagnosed with a disability,
right,
and you were fired, and then you filed a legal action, and then the courts have just completely ignored it, and you haven't heard from them in 5 years or 7 years, whatever it is.
Right. After I've worked in my industry, the television production industry, for roughly 25 years. I was hired by a company during the process I was working for them, I discovered I had a disability. And when I reported this disability to them, I was fired. I, in turn, filed a lawsuit against them. The court system has ignored my lawsuit. It's been a good 8 years since I filed a suit, and there's nothing been done.
Perfect. That just sums it up really nicely in one sentence. What else would you like to be sure you say that we haven't talked about, if anything?
Right now, I can't think of anything. I can't think of it.
All right, well, I think.
I'm
Well, you've done great. We've covered it.
Okay.
Yours is not nearly as complicated. You've been ignoring
Yeah.
great yours.
yeah.
Well, let's do one last thing. All right.
Okay.
If Judge Royce C. Lambert, the senior judge of the D.C. District Court for the Federal U.S. Court, what is it? It's the U.S. The United States District Court for the District of Columbia. If he's watching this video, why don't you look directly in the camera? What would you like to say to him?
Judge Lambert, I'm getting old. What you waiting on? Send me an attorney to represent me, and let's get this case started.
All right, now, do you think Judge Lambert will ever do that?
No.
Say that. Say no, I don't think Judge
No, I don't think Judge Lambert. No, I do not think Judge Lambert is listening to me, and he's not going to do anything about it.
All right, let's wrap it.